Good evening. Today we are going to learn about different methods of sidechaining. Bang bang!
What is up, you guys? I'm Shawnee Russell, one half of VYYL. Today we're going to learn some different methods about sidechaining. One thing I always get when I'm teaching people how to sidechain is, bro, why is it clicking? Why is it when I sidechain, it clicks? There are two reasons. Either your kick is super sub happy, doesn't have a lot of mid sound to it rather, and therefore you're hearing the clicking of the sidechain, so you may not want to go as aggressive with it. Another reason is if your drums are not punching enough, they're really not piercing through the mix naturally, you're going to hear that aggressive sidechaining. And this style of sidechaining that I do is more or less for dubstep and trap, for heavier music. I generally don't have a problem with the click, although sometimes it's just really hard to get rid of randomly. You know, it's one of those things where it all depends on the track. So let's get right into this tutorial. Alright guys, so I quickly threw this little track together here. It's pretty simple and basic. So we got the drums here. Very transient, happy drums. We got some transpire on there on the kick and snare with a little bit of hats, nothing too fancy. And then we got our wobs, which I just threw a bunch of must-die bass loops together to save time, because I ain't about to do a bunch of sound design for a goddamn sidechain tutorial. That's what it sounds like. And I'm really pushing the volume. I got them all mixed at 0. Just turned the master down, so we might have to change that after, but we'll leave it for now. And then we got a sub track here. Now if we play them all together, the drums are disappearing. Two reasons. I haven't sidechained anything, and everything's mixed pretty goddamn loud. Anyways, let's get into the ways we could sidechain here. So the first thing I'm gonna do, well, the first method I'm gonna show you guys is probably the most old school, simple and easy way to do it, especially if you're new and you don't have any plugins. You can literally do sidechaining by automating the volume. Now we could do it to the track volume, but that'd be kind of a hassle, because then if we wanted to mix the track at a different level later, it'd be locked to the automation and it just becomes a whole fucking group mess. So we're gonna use utility. I'm gonna actually start by putting it on the drums. Now I know what you're thinking, like, okay, why are you sidechaining the drums themselves? Well, bear with me here, there's a reason why. We're gonna do it to make it accurate. I'm gonna turn automation on. I got the utility down here, and what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna automate the volume down, and I wanna sidechain, or I wanna automate it so I just hear a little bit of the tail end of the kick sound. Okay, wow, well, first time's a charm. Pretty happy with that, but I'll probably just move it over a little bit. All right, so see what I'm doing? I'm ducking it out so that it's matching the length of the kick, roughly anyways. So now I'll drop another utility onto the wobs group, and I'll just copy this. I'll actually cut it. No, sorry, I will copy it. And then I will delete the automation on the drums, and I will go to the wobs and I will transfer that onto here. All right, so now there you go. So I don't know why that raised up there. I don't want it to raise. I want it to go to 0, so we can mix it after. Come on, my sensitive ass mouse. Goddamn, get to 0. There we go. Okay, cool. So now we have it on the wobs. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy it over every time the kick and clap hit. And then you'll see that now it's going to duck the volume out every time the kick hits. And we'll do the same thing for the sub. So this is an accurate sidechain. I'm pretty sure that's going to copy over. It does. Cool. Now check it out. Now that's pretty aggressive, right? So like you can really hear it. So that's, now that you've got it on there, you can tweak it a bit, you know, get it a little bit tighter. I always like to have a little bit more aggressive on the sub, because obviously the kick and the sub are going to fight against each other the most for headroom. So that right there is a little bit more a little bit more quick. Cool, so that's one way of sidechaining, using volume automation with utility. The advantages of that, it's simple, it's not too hard to set up, but the disadvantages is if you want to do a variation of the kick or clap, let's say right here, you know, at this part of the, oh hey, where's the notes? Let me get a fold there. There we go. So right there, I want it like a double kick, like a bum, bum, bum. So you see how it kind of ducks out? Then you have to go back in and you kind of have to copy and paste it. Not a huge disadvantage, but you know, it just get kind of annoying and it just leaves more room to make an error at a certain part of the track. So that's the most simple way you can do it. It's pretty effective, but I actually think there's better ways. Okay guys, next method we're going to talk about is sidechaining with the compressor. Now, right away I want to say that I don't find this to be the most effective way to sidechain. I generally only use this on like intro parts where I don't want very aggressive sidechaining. I just want it there for a softer part so the drums can come through a little bit more. But it's another way to do it, and again, if you don't have a plugin like Volume Shaper, which we'll be going over, it's actually a little bit easier to use than automating it manually with the volume, just because it goes off of audio. You know, it uses the audio signal sidechain, which is actually also a disadvantage, and we're going to go over that right now. Okay, so I'll put the compressor on the wobs to start, because when we're done we can just copy it over to the sub. I'm going to put the ratio to full, and I'm going to put the attack to 1 millisecond because I want it to activate right away as soon as the audio signal comes through. Click that arrow, you'll see sidechain, activate that motherfucker. And let's go to drums. Cool. Let's switch to this view here and watch what happens when we play it. You can see it's reacting to when the kick and snare or clap hit together. It's not pulling the volume down at all because we haven't put a threshold. But watch what happens when I pull the threshold down. Okay, you're going to notice something here. So yes, it is sidechaining, but it's also sidechaining the goddamn hats. So any audio signal that's coming through from the drums, it's now going to react to. Now, yeah, you can hit the EQ button and use like, say like, you can use a low pass filter and then try and just get that low end of the kick. But it's still a disadvantage because, you know, even if I turn this release down a lot, it's so aggressive and the release is just so... And that's just not going to cut it, right? So unfortunately, when you're using the compressor, it's actually best to pull your kick and clap, which I've actually put it in a group within Drum Rack, out of the mix, and we'll call it, or out of the group rather, and we'll call it kick, clap, and instead of routing it to drums, we'll now route it to kick, clap. Because now, actually, what I can do, now that it's just sidechaining off the kick and clap, I can use a high pass EQ and push that way up so I can just get the tail end of the kick of the noise, the more of the high end. So it's kind of a little bit better, more accurate, but as you guys can tell, it just doesn't sound as good. You know, I would honestly much rather volume automate over than using this. But I mean, it works for some things, and like I said, it works for kind of more melodic things when you don't want to use so much threshold, and you just want like a little bit of a boost. But again, I really hate doing it this way. I don't think it's a good way for dubstep, but it is a way to sidechain, so I did want to cover it. Now, of course, this track is not mixed properly. I mean, clearly we have everything slammed to 0. So, I mean, you could probably mix it and make this work a little better. But I just, again, I don't recommend doing it, even if it needs mixing. But of course, if you're going to do it this way, then obviously you just copy that over to your sub. Boom, it's going to go to the kick and clap, and it's going to do the same thing. Cool, and yeah, that's another way. Fuck that way though. Okay, now this is my favorite way of sidechaining. This is a little bit more of an advanced way to do it, but goddamn, this way is so effective. I just love it. Some people would argue the best way is to volume automate. I disagree. I think that using Volume Shaper and using the multi-band sidechain is the most effective way. So let's get into it right now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put shaper box on it. And we'll start simple with it. So what is shaper box? It's a volume shaper. There's so many different plugins that are like this, but I use shaper box volume shaper. It's my favorite. Pretty fucking cheap to buy too. So yeah, put volume shaper in there. So we are confronted with this screen, and what does it do? Well, let's play the track. We got it on the wobs, so we'll go ahead and solo. Hey, now get out of the way. We'll go ahead and solo the wobs. And what happens here? Okay, so drag it down, no volume. Drag it up, volume. Cool. So I like to drag this right to the end, to the right. So that way when it gets to the end, it's gonna play full. Usually when you don't do that, some weird fucking volume shit happens. And I don't really want to get into it, but you'll find out soon enough if you do that. So anyways, as you can see, it's following a synced pattern. We could change the length of this to match the speed of the drums if we want. You see, you can really just get in there and make your own curves. Now that's cool. It's not activating by audio, but you know. It's working, right? But here's the thing, right? We can get it to activate by MIDI, so that if a MIDI note comes through, it's gonna fucking trigger this. So now when I hit play, it's not sidechaining because it's waiting for a MIDI signal. So if I actually duplicate the drum group here, switch to this, and I go to this, and I will rename this to MIDI Trigger. I'm gonna go in here and just delete, well actually the first thing I'll do is I'll delete drum rack here, so that it's just a pure MIDI signal now. And you'll know it's a pure MIDI signal because this will change the dots here. So now it's only gonna send MIDI signals. So I don't need all this shit in the notes. I just need where it needs to sidechain, which is where the kick happens, right? So, cool. Sending MIDI signals, and that's why another reason I love using this is because I can just duplicate my kick and clap. And if I do a variation of the drums, I can just copy this, paste it, delete the fucking hi-hat notes, and you're good, you're golden. So I'm gonna put the output to wobs. I'm putting the MIDI signal to wobs, and it should automatically come up with shaper box. It comes up with a fuckload. I don't know why it does this, to be honest, but usually first time's a charm, and it works. If you don't find it's coming through, just sift through that. That's a disadvantage of this, is sometimes you gotta go through this a bunch, but anyways, yeah. So it should start sidechaining now when the MIDI note hits. Booyah, grandma! Booyah! Okay, so now here's the thing. I wanna make this super accurate, right? So you remember when I first was doing the volume automation, I put it on the kick, right? And that's exactly what I'm gonna do. So I'm gonna cut this and I'm gonna paste it on the drums so that I can get a accurate sidechain of the drum. So I'm gonna put this back to beat synced. It's pretty close, you know, just a little bit more aggressive, but here's the thing, okay? We can do it like that. We can do it so that it's just a single volume duck. This is the fucking most amazing thing about this plugin. And I actually spoke about this a little bit on my last tutorial. You can do a multi-band, meaning you'll get low, mid, and high here. So this way you're actually gonna get the most accurate sidechain. So if I click low and I hit solo, okay, it's gonna solo the low parts. Probably bring it back a little bit here. Cool, so I'm gonna sidechain it so I just get the accurate amount of time in the envelope to match the low end of the kick. I want a little less tail end on that. So now the bass part of the sidechain of the audio signal is going to get sidechained accurately. And now the mid's going to be totally different. Not too different actually, but a little quicker. And then the high, I bet is going to be really fast, right? So, like again, guys, I'm just putting this on my kick to match the timing of it, right? So I'm matching the high or low, mid, and high signal of the kick. So that's completely silent. So on the high, I don't need it to be as aggressive. Oh, come on, you don't be like that. Little tail end, cool. Now, one thing to keep in mind, well, actually, first, since we did that, let's go ahead and cut that. Put it back in the wobs. Put my output back to wobs because it went away because we took sidechain off. And now that we got it set to wobs, we go in back into the shaper box on wobs. And each band we have to set to MIDI one shot, beat one shot, so that each band is being activated by the MIDI signal. So now let's give it a listen here. Oh, I forgot to turn the solo off. My bad. So solo's off now. Now let's give it a listen. Now when I can mix it a little louder or lower, whatever I want, I can paste that on the bass, just duplicate my MIDI trigger. And generally I name the MIDI triggers the same as the tracks and make a group so I know which one's controlling which. And then this one will go to sub and... Whoa, got something weird going on here. I think we got a solo going on still. What the hell? Oh, well, it's not going to the shaper box. That's why. Cool. Sub. There we go. So now we got to go into the sub and the wobs. And of course, if you want to go in and make some minor adjustments, you know, maybe make the mid duck out a little more. And of course, like I was been saying before, and I'll say it again, this is not properly mixed. So I mean, like, I'm gonna just give it a quick general proper mix down here. I mean, like, in my opinion, there's no rules to this, but we'll put this at 6, and I like to mix my wobs at like 4. So let's just quickly do it without sidechain and with sidechain. Oh, goddamn, what am I doing? There we go. You know, I can't stress it enough. I really think that anybody who's making dubstep or trap should be using something like Shaper Box. Now, I have this at a different length. I didn't fix that by accident, but, you know, we gauged it, so it works out pretty good. You guys get the general idea, right? And there's a lot more things you can play around with this. I won't get too much in detail. That's generally how you sidechain. And just another quick tip I like to do, anything that I have sidechain, I like to do to group it into one final group. And I actually usually call it guts. So like, not only do you get to sidechain everything one last time just to be safe, you get to see the final volume output of what your loud tracks are doing. So like, now I know that this is only clipping by 2, but the drums are clipping by 3, so like I don't really give a shit. But then I just do one final shaper box, you know, duplicate that MIDI trigger, put that one to guts, and honestly, I only usually do a mid because one thing I will mention is using multi-band sidechain can actually get pretty hard in your CPU once you start getting a lot of tracks in. So I'll generally just do a quick transient duck. Oh, I gotta put that to beat one shot MIDI triggered. And I just do kind of a quick, just get that fucker. Come on, there we go. Just do a really quick cut just to ensure that it's getting completely quiet. Yeah, so that's sidechaining. My personal favorite is Shaper Box. My least personal favorite is Compressor. But you can achieve the same results with volume automation. Well, there you have it, folks. There are some different methods of sidechaining. I hope this video helped you. Maybe it didn't. Maybe it sucked. Whatever floats your boat. I don't know. Let me know in the comments. But either way, guys, I'm Shawnee Russell, one half of VYYL. Peace. Love you. More tutorials coming soon. And who knows, maybe I'll start posting music on the channel. Stay safe. Much love.